right, everyone. So this is an optional presentation that I have put together to give you a bit more insight into how the literature can be used and should be used to develop out and justify your problem of practice in a written manuscript. Okay, so essentially, most pragmatically, within your dissertation. Okay, so in your TEL 706 course, hopefully you're learning more about what a problem of practice is in general. But essentially, it's right, like kind of an issue or topic that can be studied by you and can be studied by you as part of your dissertation. So it's pretty pragmatic the way I'm going to frame it in this presentation. So there are a lot of problems, 99, maybe more, but our focus here is just one that can be studied by you in your dissertation. So really that issue needs to come both from your experience working in the Long Beach College setting, and then also the way you describe your problem will be backed up and contextualized by the peer-reviewed literature and other trustworthy sources. So as I'll explain more throughout this presentation, what you observe and data from the Long Beach context is really important in justifying your problem in addition to peer-reviewed and other sort of trustworthy sources. Okay, so often students, again, this is a pragmatic presentation and you want to get your degree and you want to do a good dissertation. So often students ask, okay, so how long in my dissertation do I have to, how many pages should my problem of practice explanation be? So not usually. So your problem of practice will be described at the very start in your first chapter, kind of framing the issue that you're going to be, focusing on with your study. So it'll probably be the very first couple of pages of your dissertation. And typically in my experience as a chair of ASU EDD dissertations, so different universities, different programs, different disciplines, their problems are different, but here typically in my experience, that section of your dissertation will be about 3 to 5 pages double spaced. Do not freak out right now though. Number one, in this course even, we're not expecting you to have a 3 to 5 page double spaced page problem articulated. And your dissertation, as you continue through the program, your ideas are going to continue to evolve. So that's not where you should be right now, but I'm just giving you kind of like a benchmark of what you'll probably eventually get to. And something else that you'll see that will come out throughout this presentation is that your problem of practice will articulate the issue and contextualize it within higher education broadly. So all of the peer-reviewed research, well, not all, but sort of the current peer-reviewed research that's out there, but then also include a description of what this issue looks like at Long Beach College specifically. So I'll get into a little bit more detail about that in a second, but I really wanted to, from the start, give you a sense of how long or how much information typically goes into a dissertation problem of practice for an EDD. Okay, so the reason why I'm doing this presentation is because Shaheen, shout out to her, sent me an email and asked me some questions about her problem, and I suggested that perhaps I could put together a presentation. So I'm going to use her problem as an example of what you sort of need to do and how you need to incorporate the peer-reviewed research. So up here on this slide is Shaheen's problem, articulated very much in a succinct way, right? One sentence here. Despite enrolling in community colleges at similar rates as their peers, Black students consistently experience lower retention rates, graduation rates, and academic achievement levels. Okay, so all of us, or not all of us, I shouldn't say it like that, but most of us who have expertise in post-secondary education would look at this sentence and be like, of course, right? There's no need to justify this. We kind of, in our own, based on all of the reading we've done, we already know that, yes, these are issues. There are equity issues according to race and ethnicity in community college student outcomes. But because this is a dissertation, Shaheen's going to need to back up all of that information and expand on it as part of her problem statement. Okay, so how would I personally go about doing this? And Shaheen, you can do it your own way and everybody else would do it a different way. So this is just how I would go about sort of like substantiating this problem and expanding on it for dissertation. Okay, so let's kind of unpack this. First of all, I would engage with published studies to substantiate this problem as a broad issue, as an issue across community colleges in the US, not just at Long Beach College. So the first part of her problem statement, despite enrolling in community colleges at similar rates as their peers. Okay, just that in and of itself. So we might say, okay, Black students enroll, have access to community college at similar rates as other students from other ethnic and racial backgrounds. But actually, you need to back that up. She needs to back that up. So what are the community college enrollment stats according to race and ethnicity? So he needs to look that up, right? And she needs to cite that. And I'm going to get to more specifics around that in a second, like what that would look like. So that in and of itself is something she needs to cite, that claim. And then also in her problem statement, she claimed or argued Black students consistently experience lower retention rates. So she needs to cite that as well. So the retention rates, right? So retention is whether or not a student enrolls again in classes from one semester to the next. Do we have evidence about that? Shaheen needs to cite that claim as well with reliable, trustworthy sources that show Black students generally in the community colleges experience lower retention rates, as well as graduation rates, as well as academic achievement levels. So each of those 4 dimensions, she's going to need to cite those claims because it's a broad sort of problem issue that she's not claiming, she's stating exists, but she needs to back that up, right? So it's really important to have justification for these claims. So more specifically, okay, so going back to the first part of Shaheen's problem statement, despite enrolling in community colleges at similar rates as their peers. So what I would do with this very first part, so Shaheen's trying to make the claim that, okay, Black students have access at similar rates to community colleges, right? But then their outcomes are worse. So I did a little bit of a very quick search around for evidence on that. And so what I would say, even just for this first sentence, bring some statistics into bear here, right? So so certainly despite enrolling in community colleges at similar rates, expand on that. So I would say maybe, so historically Black students have enrolled in community colleges at similar rates as their peers. And so I looked this up with Census Bureau. African Americans are about 13.6% of the US population. And so according to this white paper study, they comprise 13.8% of community college students in 2022. Shaheen could frame this enrollment sort of statistic using a ton of different sources, right? But this is one way to do it. I'd also, Shaheen, this is a side note, I'd encourage you to look at this report in general, because actually it showed that Black students actually had even higher access rates, but they've declined since the pandemic to community colleges. But anyways, this is a national picture, but you want to, in this way, right? So these kind of descriptive arguments or claims, enrolling in community colleges at similar rates as their peers. Here's how Black students have enrolled, right? And it's similar actually to their representation in the overall US population. And then she could also cite this report that shows white students and Latinx students have similar patterns in community colleges. I think actually Asian students are less likely to enroll in community colleges, but I was looking at this report. But anyways, so that's kind of, again, how to expand this out to eventually make it to 3 to 5 pages. So each of those kinds of general claims, you want to bring in specific statistics and kind of like show the evidence, detailed evidence around your claims. And so I would do the same thing. So Shaheen actually will do the same thing. So maybe starting out talking about the enrollments and then making the case why there's still an issue here. So the issue perhaps is not that Black students don't go to community college, but the problem is they don't graduate, or they don't persist, right? And their grades are potentially lower. So she'd want to bring in sort of research and statistics around retention rates, graduation rates, and academic achievement in the same way as I did kind of with this overall access piece. And then too, you'd want to kind of also make the case as to, obviously, all of us who know about higher ed, it's like, it's a problem if students don't graduate, right? And if students have lower grades than others. But one of the things here, so I would expand on that problem, that issue, right? And say, here you can see at the end where I added some more text. So why do we care? Why do we care that Black students graduate at lower rates and have lower grades and are retained at lower levels than other students? I would make the case, so students invest time and financial resources to pursue community colleges. And so by not getting that degree, Black students aren't eligible for the employment opportunities and wage premium associated with holding a 2-year credential. And you'd want to cite that as well, right? But again, this is all kind of ways to use the research literature to substantiate your problem of practice as a general overall issue. Okay. So then your problem statement includes the larger context, right? But then it's a problem of practice. So we want to know also what this looks like in your study setting. So what's the issue in practice? So what Shaheen will do, and you will do, explain this issue and sort of what it looks like at a national or global picture, but then narrow it down to where you're doing your study. And so, again, this is talking about your problem of practice and how to use the literature evidence there. So after talking about and sort of saying, oh, there are problems with Black students' outcomes in community colleges nationally, then perhaps Shaheen will write something like this that's up on the screen. So she will say, you know, that's also an issue here at the setting of this study, Long Beach City College. And if Shaheen has any evidence, so you're going to want to explain to, first of all, what Long Beach College is, because think about this. So, well, I know Long Beach City College because I'm working with all of you. A random person in 10 years who reads your dissertation online is not going to know much or anything probably about your college and what the situation is there currently. So you're going to want to explain that. So that doesn't need to all be cited. Like, you don't need to cite the fact that Long Beach City College is a primarily associate's degree granting institution, But if there's data around or statistics that you can bring to bear around what the problem looks like in your context, do that. From institutional researchers, from maybe the chancellor's office has data about, equity gaps, etc. You should certainly include that and cite that in your problem of practice statement. So if Shaheen has data like that shows issues sort of in the context of California community college system and or Long Beach City College specifically, she should absolutely add that here now. And then even further, what you're going to want to do in your problem of practice is situate the study within your own experience. So finally, your problem statement should say something like, as a faculty member in Long Beach's sociology department for however number of years, I've observed these issues with students in my own classroom. And so as I've pointed out previously, and APA says this, you can absolutely and should absolutely speak in the first person about your observations and contextualize it within your expertise, right? So Shaheen's a faculty member in Long Beach sociology department, right? So she can speak directly to what she's seen with the students she's worked with. And that in and of itself is justification. She doesn't need to cite it with like her bio on the Long Beach City College website or something like that. She can say that. And again, too, you can write in the first person to justify claims that are based on your own observations. So hopefully this isn't getting too overwhelming or confusing, but the main thing is, right, so you situate, as I talked about previously, your problem of practice within sort of the national perspective on higher education and community colleges, and then you narrow it down and keep justifying it with whatever evidence you have available and or the evidence from your own observations, but make that clear as an expert in this context. Okay, so then finally, here's Shaheen's study purpose, right? So this is a little bit different from her problem. So the problem is students Black students in particular experience disproportionately adverse outcomes as part of their community college experience. And so what she wants to do specifically, and this is her study purpose, right? This is no longer the problem. This is how she's going to solve the problem. So that's her purpose. She's going to see how faculty specifically can create more inclusive and supportive learning environments to improve Black student success rates. So, right, so as you can see, again, she wants to look at how faculty can improve student success in the classroom. By framing her problem really broadly, all overall the US, and then narrowing it down a little bit to Long Beach City College, and then specifically to her classroom, that really sets up this purpose, right? To make the case for why studying faculty and a faculty intervention with students, Black students in the classroom might be a promising solution for that problem. Okay, so hopefully, I know this is getting long, but I was going to also give you an example from my own research. So I did a study a couple years ago about faculty attitudes towards college students with criminal records. So that's the title. So what's the problem here? So the way that I framed the problem is that studies show there are lots of people out there with criminal records, and also many people who are later exonerated. So that sucks even more. They have criminal records and they actually didn't commit a crime. So that's a problem because these people who have records, although getting a college degree is associated with better, outcomes economically for individuals as well as for society, a degree also has benefits for people with records, but then there's still a lot of barriers to their access and success. And so similar to Shaheen, I focused my study on faculty and their relationship with students with criminal records. And I had to make the case that faculty are critical gatekeepers. So it's really important to know what they think specifically. So you wouldn't start out and be like, college students with a criminal record, what's the problem? You have to kind of explain there's a problem that students who enroll in college and have criminal records can benefit from being in college, but the way that faculty treat them is, and our study showed, can be create conditions that cause them to drop out. So I was going to actually show you two, and now I have to switch my new screen share. Here it is. To that study itself. So here, faculty attitudes towards college students with criminal records. So again, as I said, the way I framed, so my problem statement here is probably about it's about 2 pages double spaced in the equivalent of dissertation. So as I said, we started out talking about, okay, so higher education creates a lot of opportunities for people with criminal records. And so as you can see here, here's where the literature comes in, right? I studied, and this is kind of also alluding to that idea of bins, the benefits of higher education to people with criminal records. Like there's a number of different studies that fit in that bin. And I was able to cite them all in this first paragraph where I sort of was starting to frame my problem. So higher education is a great thing for people who have criminal records. And moreover, I sort of started this and continued on with the problem by saying, okay, so it's great, but unfortunately, although there are a lot of people that have criminal records, very few of them actually have been able to go to college. And I've also cited that with, different statistics here and the literature in general. Then we kind of also moved on in terms of framing this as well as an equity issue, because people of color, particularly Black men, are disproportionately penalized by the criminal justice system. And that's this bin right here, I guess. We can call it a bin. This paragraph sort of making that case as the problem. It's an equity issue, right? So here's kind of how we sort of framed this as needing study. So this is an equity issue. People benefit and the public benefits from people getting college degrees. And unfortunately, though, there are a lot of barriers for people with records to get into college and then also be successful there. And so then my next kind of set of bins talked about some of the barriers that people experience when trying to enroll in college who have a record, as well as being successful. And so how we sort of narrowed it down, I didn't do this study as sort of in the ASU setting, but we had to make the case that oh, you know what? It's important to know what faculty think and how faculty treat students with records, because here's some research. This is the bin. There are benefits of students having good relationships with faculty and faculty having positive perceptions of students. However, there's no research about the topic of what faculty think about students with criminal records. Oops, pumped over here. So that's, as you can see, I'm focusing on, you can see there's a lot of citations in this problem statement, in these problem statements. You need to back up your claims with either make it explicit here. This is based on my observation as an expert and professor or practitioner at Long Beach City College, or you need to cite your claims. Sorry, I keep clicking around. But anyways, so that's how kind of to think about shaping and framing your problem of practice using the literature and citing the literature. And again, kind of the more you are able to draw from the evidence base, the better. Okay, so my final recommendation, wait, that was my example for my own research. Oh yeah, oops, sorry, that's my email. So my final recommendation, when you get time, you don't need to do it right now, but I strongly recommend that at some point, I think Sarah was the one who pointed out in the library search assignment that ASU and a lot of libraries in general have access to the ProQuest dissertation database. So that database, and I'm going to show you, this is getting very fancy with all of my screen shares. All right, new share. The ProQuest dissertation database, you can access, through the ASU library. Just go to the library homepage and search here ProQuest, yes, ProQuest dissertation abstract, and it'll pop up right here, ProQuest dissertation. So it's actually, I don't know why it's here. So we'll click on this. From the reason why I'm recommending you check out ProQuest dissertation, the dissertations at some point, is to just get some more sort of benchmarks of what problems of practice look like in ASU EDD dissertations. So you can access ASU, all of the dissertations that have been done in the EDD program and anywhere else at ASU and pretty much anywhere through this platform. So my suggestion is at some point, maybe just go here and put in at the search, maybe community college. And then also if you want to just focus on Arizona State, you need to put Arizona State University. I don't know, it doesn't even matter where it is. Community college, maybe an Arizona State University. One thing I'd suggest is just look at some recent ones, maybe within the last 3 years. And then you'll need to, ProQuest also has a bunch of different stuff on here. You'll need to come down here to document type, actually, or source type, I guess, and click on select only dissertations and theses. So then just, like search around and find one maybe that looks interesting to you. Let's see which comes up. All right, here's one. Although that's probably not about community colleges. The TEL of 2 universities. No. Here, we'll come down here because I know here, transforming community colleges, how to better serve. Oh, this one is at the University of Maryland. All right, we're not going to do that one. We want to do one at Arizona State. So here, maybe this one at Arizona State, bridging the disconnect of interdepartmental communication. So you can pull this up and open up the full text of it. And look, oh, this one, your advisor, Stephanie Smith, was on the committee for the student's dissertation. And so what I'd suggest is pull up a couple of different dissertations that are relevant to your topic, and then look at here, this guy, here's his problem of practice. Look at how they wrote about their problem of practice, and also in particular, how they used the literature to justify it and other citations to justify it. So that's my suggestion, final suggestion, in terms of if you still have some questions about your problem of practice and how to use the literature to frame it. I'm happy to meet with you, as is Dennis, to kind of go through your topic and your issue in more detail, almost like I did with Shaheen's here in this presentation. So, and also please let us know too, if there's other presentations or other information we can develop to help you figure out how to be successful in using the literature to support your dissertation. All right, thanks so much.